As we all know by now, construction mistakes are the most expensive mistakes. From bridge collapses to pieces of buildings falling down from skyscrapers, on this episode of Built a Billion, we present to you 6 of the most expensive construction mistakes in the world. And if you want to hear about all the mega projects of the world, please hit that subscribe button and get us to our goal of 500 subscribers. It'll really help the channel out. Mississippi Bridge Collapse. Bridge collapses are nasty business and are usually the result of engineering flaws or poor maintenance. The Mississippi Bridge collapse most likely suffered from both. In August of 2007, the I-35 West Mississippi River Bridge collapsed into the Mississippi River after 40 years of use. 100 cars and 18 construction workers plummeted 40 meters into the depths of the river, and tragically 13 people were killed with another 145 injured. The center span abruptly started to crumble due to the 8-lane structure being deemed structurally deficient and in desperate need of repair. But most egregiously, the gusset plates, which join different beams and sections of the bridge, were only half as thick as required. Cap all this off with 300 tons of construction equipment and rush hour traffic, and those gusset plates didn't stand a chance. $52 million was eventually paid to the victims of the collapse, and $2.5 billion was raised for a bridge improvement program. $250 million was taken out of those funds to rebuild the bridge. Vdara Hotel, Las Vegas. In 2010, the Vdara Hotel guests started reporting that they were leaving the hotel with severe sunburn after visiting the pool. Turns out the curved design on the hotel created the same effect as a magnifying glass in the sun. The sunlight would heat the pool up to 42 degrees Celsius during the day, and customers began complaining about singed hair and harsh burns on their bodies. To patch up the issue, large blue umbrellas were installed near the pool, a protective film was placed around the building, and guests were encouraged to try out the area with full confidence. But the guests still said that the heat was too intense. In a dramatic plot twist, this architect was the same one who designed the walkie-talkie building in the UK, which we covered in another one of our videos. This building infamously melted parked cars, fried eggs on the sidewalks, and eventually had to be corrected with a $14 billion sunshade. I mean, this guy must be stopped before he melts the entire world. Aon Center Tragedy. The Aon Center was constructed in the 70s for $120 million and was the tallest building in Chicago at 346 meters. It featured a facade of Italian marble slabs that was nice to look at, but later turned out to be expensive and dangerous. The marble slabs were too thin and started cracking as soon as they were attached to the facade. Weeks after the building's opening, one of the slabs loosened from the facade and came crashing down. The block weighed 160 kilograms and crashed into the roof of an adjacent skyscraper, thankfully never hitting the street. Questions about the structural integrity of the building quickly started buzzing, but the architect emphasized that the only problem was with the facade, which was later secured to prevent further issues. But temperatures over the next few years would cause the slabs to crack again, and so in 1985, the slabs were secured with steel straps. 5 years later, the whole exterior cladding had to be replaced, and the marble slabs were replaced with thicker granite panels, which costed $80 million. Liang Star City. In 2011, construction began on the second phase of the Liang Star City in China. 19 high-rise buildings were constructed to house office and residential space. A year after construction started, the project changed hands, and the new company actually completed 4 high-rises before being forced to stop in 2013 due to financial concerns. There were other buildings that were topped out, but not completely finished. As the years went by, these buildings started to flood with rainwater in the basements, which caused irreparable foundational damage. In an ultimate finesse move, the second company managed to sell the project rights to a third company for $150 million. After a while, this last company accepted their loss and realized they had to demolish the buildings. 4 tons of explosives were put into place by demo crews, and in August of 2021, After years of planning and construction, the buildings toppled down in 45 seconds. Now that's how you waste money, folks. Millennium Tower. Completed in 2009, the Millennium Tower is the 6th tallest building in San Francisco at almost 200 meters. The construction cost $350 million and went off without a hitch, until the residents realized the building they were living in was tilting and sinking into the ground. The foundation of the tower was built into deep sand instead of bedrock, which couldn't support the building. 7 years after its completion, the tower had already sunk 40 centimeters or 16 inches to go with a 15-centimeter tilt at the top. Lawsuits went flying as the city of San Francisco and the Homeowners Association of the building sued the development team. But there were even deeper structural problems in the tower, and eventually a settlement in court was introduced to fix the problem. Engineers proposed a $100 million plan to drill into the bedrock on the north and west sides of the tower. 50 new piles would be installed and reach 70 meters down into the bedrock, which would brace the towers and reduce tilt for several years. This fix had to be paused in 2021 when it was discovered the tower had sunk another inch, increasing the tilt again to about 22 inches. So, in 2022, it was decided that the building would be placed on 18 piles instead that would act as adjustable cushions. This whole thing is a mess, and it will be interesting to see how it all plays out. Olkiluoto 3. 30% of Finland's electricity is provided by nuclear power, but in 2005, the Finnish government decided that it wanted more. They decided that in order to decrease coal use, they needed to create more nuclear reactors, and that's exactly what Finland did with the 3rd unit of the Olkiluoto power plant that would boost nuclear production by 60%. The first 2 units had been producing power since the 1980s, and when the 3rd one started construction in 2005, it was the first nuclear reactor built by a Western country in 15 years. TVO, the company that owns the plant, promised that it would open in 2010, but it's still under construction today. The buildings were a piece of cake, but the nuclear components have taken years to install. Business disagreements, supply chain problems, and scheduling issues have kept the project hanging for 12 years, and it is now $8 billion over budget. One of the main problems is that no one has built a reactor in years, and all of the experienced builders left the business during the 15-year gap of construction between previous reactors and Olkiluoto 3. Not only this, but the concrete foundation was found to be irregular and so had to be redone. Welders weren't informed on proper practices, and contractors weren't forging some parts of the reactors correctly. Documentation and licensing on the administrative side also took years to get straight. The original cost of the plant was $3 billion, but continued to increase with every passing year. As of December 2022, the plant is going through testing phases, and who knows, maybe one day this thing will open. What do you think about the most expensive construction mistakes in the world? The earlier parts of this series will be linked on the screen, so click that video on the screen to watch something you haven't seen. And thanks for visiting